in a big city like New York, you're obviously not going to be happy if you have DeGrom on your team and he's not your most reliable guy, especially with a guy like Steve Cohen out there. Even if you have Max Scherzer and Chris Bassett, Jacob DeGrom, he's still Jacob DeGrom. He's the new face of the franchise. He's one of the longest tenured Mets, if not the longest tenured Met. He was with us in the World Series. He pitched in their only win, unfortunately, I believe. And but I do think that injuries are going to be an issue with him for the next several years to come. But I also do think that when DeGrom is healthy, he's never going to be set back by these injuries when he's ready to return. I think he's always going to get right back to business throwing. I mean, if the injuries don't hurt his arm too much, then I think he will continue to be throwing at these high velocities that we're seeing today. And I think he will still be playing at a Cy Young level. It's just a matter of whether he has enough time during these seasons to actually get that Cy Young award.
So I wanted to ask you about this more so. Do you think that, I mean, I've heard Mets fans say, oh, DeGrom's not injury prone. And to an extent, I mean, obviously I'm not a Mets fan, so I don't know DeGrom's injury history that well, but I was looking at it a few days back. And from what I can tell, like before 2020, like he didn't really have many stints on the DL.
Yep.
Like there was a few 10 days things, but there was no Tommy John. There was no, you're missing 3 months with, I don't know, whatever, like a broken rib or just something that like, or a strained hamstring or you're out for whatever. So I want to ask the question. So you do think that Jacob DeGrom's injury prone at this point in his career?
I don't think that he is an injury prone guy. I think it's just that Jacob DeGrom he found a way that no pitchers in baseball are able to pitch, and therefore they don't know how to train to do the kinds of things that Jacob DeGrom is able to do. And that includes Jacob DeGrom. I think that he's playing at a level that is too far ahead of what his 33-year-old body can do right now. But I think that if Jacob DeGrom can find a routine in which he's able to continue throwing 101 miles an hour several times over the course of a game while still keeping his arm in good shape, I think that's the key. But I don't think that he is an injury prone person. I think it's just that he is too good for himself, if that makes sense.
Do you think that there's a realistic way Jacob DeGrom can get better? Because like looking to other sports like football, for example, you have Tom Brady, who's 45 years old now and still, I mean, I don't know how many of you people listening out there are like big NFL fans, but even you people should know that like Tom Brady almost played an MVP caliber level, and he takes very strict care of his body. Like he has like this special diet. I think like he eats like he's famous for like avocado ice cream. So do you think that DeGrom could, I guess, obviously you're not like a sports scientist, but do you think that he can do like realistically? Do you think that there is a way that he finds a way to like keep rid of his body to keep healthy, or do you think it's more just of like there might be a way, or do you just I guess, is that a realistic possibility?
So I do think it's possible, but I also think it's going to be hard because for over a decade now, the Mets have had one of the worst training staffs in baseball. And right now, even before the season starts, I can already tell that injuries are going to be a huge part of this team this year. And I don't think that training staff will be able to find something that can help Jacob DeGrom be Jacob DeGrom week in and week out. But I do think that if another pitcher does find a way to do what Jacob DeGrom does at a younger age and they're able to get into the routine at that younger age, I do think it would be possible. But for DeGrom, it's getting a little late in his career. I think it's possible that he can find a way to get into a routine, but I'm not positive, to be honest. Maybe he could start eating that avocado ice cream you're talking about. Maybe, hopefully that'll cure everything. But right now, I'm not feeling amazing about him.
Well, to go off of that, one thing while we're on the topic of Jacob DeGrom, obviously correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm pretty sure he has an opt out after this season. So
Yep.
if you're the Mets and if you're like another team per se, would you pay him a big contract? Would you like commit to him for like 5 years, 400, not 400 million, but like 300 million, or just some like crazy insane number? Or would you like steer clear of him this offseason if he does decide to opt out of his contract?
I think it really depends on which team you're asking. If you're looking at a team like the Dodgers, who's trying to build a yearly World Series contender and has been doing so by trading for veterans right before, like at the trade deadline, who are on the last year of their contract, not as a permanent solution, but just as a way to launch themselves into World Series contention, I would say I would. And what I can say with confidence is I would be absolutely shocked if Jacob DeGrom was not in a New York Mets uniform next season. Because Jacob DeGrom, not only has he said that he wants to play with the Mets into his 40s, but he loves the team. He's a face of the franchise. The fans love him. And you got to address the elephant in the room. We have Steve Cohen.
Yeah.
Steve Cohen is able to afford to pay Jacob DeGrom Max Scherzer numbers. And I do think that Jacob DeGrom, he might be willing to give not really a hometown discount because he's not from New York, but like an I want to play with you discount. But I don't know if he'd be willing to take anything less than Max Scherzer after seeing what Max Scherzer got after playing against the Mets as a rival for so many years.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you want to go too far into this. Feel free to shoot down this question. But if you are Jacob DeGrom, would you think it's wise to take a hometown discount? Because like as you have gone over, like he does have these injury concerns, and if he were to take like I don't know, like more of like a Max Scherzer short term deal. I mean, Max Scherzer is different because he's like older than DeGrom, obviously, or well, he's older when he hit his free agency than DeGrom when he'll hit his. But like just real quick, if you just want, you don't have to go deep into this, but do you think that that'd be a viable option for him? Like,
So I think that it really depends on how much of a discount it is. If it's going to be like a $50 million discount, I don't think he would take that. But if it's something between a few $1 million between the Mets and the Dodgers, let's say, I think he would take that and return to the Mets because the Mets are a World Series contender. And you also know how passionate the Mets fans are. You see them slamming the former fan favorite, Noah Syndergaard, for taking a very close deal to what the Mets offered them, but with a different team. I don't think DeGrom, who's known not just for his skill, but for his mentality and his poise and his leadership as a player, I don't think DeGrom would want to give that up to not stay with the Mets, potentially play against them in the playoffs, maybe even the World Series. And I just don't think that DeGrom would be willing to go to a different team for just a few more $1 million. He's
well,
also already getting paid a ton.
on the topic of, I guess, the Mets fans and I guess like the whole stigma around the organization, I think you had mentioned earlier that like obviously I'm not a Mets fan, but like there is this whole I guess stigma of like the lol Mets, I guess basically like every single time something happens to the Mets, you have people laughing at them, and you have people. I mean, obviously, anytime anything bad happens to any team on social media these days, unless it's like something very serious, you're gonna have people laugh at them. Like the time the Mets like batted out of order, or the time I don't even know. There are too many to count at this point.
Time when Cespedes like got into an accident with like a cow or something, rolled into a
Yeah,
ditch. I
like
don't
he
even
like
know
tripped on
anymore.
his ranch and was out for like two
Yeah.
years and kind of ruined his career. But do you think? I guess obviously I also come from a team that has I obviously I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to say my specific age, but I think you can tell by listening to my voice that I was not, let's just say I was not above the age of 18 in 2004. So I did not really get to experience I didn't really get to experience the whole stigma of like, oh, the Red Sox are going to find a way to blow it this year. Oh, we're going to blow a 14 game lead to the Yankees. Oh, we're going to have Bucky Dent out of all people hit a home run in 1978. Oh, Aaron Boone's going to hit the home run in the 2003 World Series. And I'm not really sure. Obviously, I don't know how much that it played an effect on the Red Sox in their mentality. But do you think it's like playing this whole stigma of like the Lowell Mets? Do you think it's like playing big, I guess, into their into the team and like the clubhouse as a whole?
So I'm not actually sure how much it's playing a role in the actual clubhouse, but I definitely do think that between the fans at the stadium, even from the people working for the organization who are trying to make the team seem like a legitimate team, I definitely do think that that stigma exists, that the Mets are the Mets. They haven't won a World Series since 1986. They always find a way to mess something up after having these super high expectations. Like, and Steve Cohen coming to the Mets, yeah, it's $14 billion. But also, I don't know how much good it's been doing for that stigma, because even with that $14 billion, they gave Francisco Lindor a $340 million deal. And then they get into first place for multiple
100 days.
months and they don't even finish over 500. So I don't think Steve Cohen is fixing that stigma. And I also think that, like, you look at what happened a couple of years ago with Trevor Bauer.
Yeah.
People think that he used the Mets to his own advantage to get a better deal from the Dodgers. And I think that if Steve Cohen wants to change how people think of this franchise and how they've thought of this franchise for decades, I think he's going to need to hope that Buck Showalter can get a really big change from not only the players but also from the fans.
So do you think that's what this team is? I mean, just looking back to it, um, I mean, I mean, the Mets have made a bunch of changes in the recent years. They brought in Billy Epler, they brought in Buck Showalter, they got Max Scherzer, they got Francisco Lindor. They have, I'm sure they got, I mean, the whole outfield pretty much revamped this past offseason, but they have made a lot of changes on like the management level and I guess the playing on the field level. So do you think that it is just sticking with Buck Showalter and trusting him in the fact to in the fact that he can like establish the culture and like get rid of like the whole lol Mets, I guess? Or do you think it's more of do you think there's like more that can be done, like inserting the Wilpons again? I was joking about that last point, but do you think that there's, I guess, more that can be done as a whole?
Um, I don't think that we can throw everything on Buck Showalter's shoulders. Obviously, he is going to play a big part in this, but I don't think it's fair to put it on Showalter's shoulders. This is something that we've seen not just from the Mets, but from other teams around the league, from other sports, even about all of the team's issues being blamed on the head coach or on the manager. But I also think, like, I'm starting to buy into this myself. This whole offseason, even before all these injuries, I was saying, oh, I don't think the Mets are going to be over 500 this season. Not because I don't think Max Scherzer is good, not because I don't think Starling Marte is good, not because I don't think Mark Canha is good, but I just right now, I haven't seen anything in the clubhouse change. I haven't seen any energy from the fans change enough to make me think that the Mets have the mentality that it takes to be a playoff contender.